Hello and welcome, Pokemon fans. There are those who call me Bard Breaker, and it's time for another Sunday Pokemon Challenge run. Last week we heated things up with some steamed hams, and that was a pretty fun run through the highest gen I can do on this channel for the time being. So let's go back to the gen that started it all. Today we're going to ask and answer the question, can I beat Pokemon Blue with a team of only one Shelder? Shelder is a Gen 1 water Pokemon that was probably best known for having a healthy obsession with trying to eat Slowpoke. We have a stat total of 305, and that puts us on par with Pokemon like Venonat, Mankey, and Smoochum. We have amazing defense, but pretty dismal everything else. Our special of 45 is going to be pretty bad, as will our HP and speed. Speed's really going to be bad for us, considering critical hits in Generation 1 are speed-based, meaning we're only going to have about a 7.8% chance of a crit at any given time. Though, I guess in hindsight that is better than the normal 1 in 16 chance, but not by a lot. Moveset-wise, we don't have a lot going for us. We start with Tackle and Withdraw, which isn't great. We don't get another damage and move all the way up until level 23 when we learn Clamp, and that's not very good. Though it does get us some stall potential. Aurora Beam and Ice Beam will be good when we get them, but because we aren't Ice like Cloyster, we don't get the same type attack bonus from them. By TM, we don't get a lot either. Bubble Beam, Tri-Attack, and Blizzard are our best bets, especially because Generation 1 Blizzard is 90% accurate. But at this point, guys, I remind you that I haven't started playing the game yet, and I write the script as I go with the challenge. Everyone take your guesses down below, and please the almighty algorithm, God of the YouTube algorithm, and let me know if you think I can do this or not. I'm gonna say that we can, but our low special stats are really going to hinder our ice and water moves and leave us vulnerable to our weaknesses of grass and electric. Lastly, before we begin, let's take a final look at the rules. In battle, I can only use Shelder. I'll need other utility Pokemon for HMs, but I won't be allowed to use those Pokemon in battle. I also will not be using any items in battle. It's Generation 1, so there are no held items, but items outside of battle are going to be allowed. Lastly, I won't be using any cheats, glitches, or exploits, aside from replacing our starter with Shelder. Let's do it. So like I just said, I start the run off by using the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Squirtle with Shelder so that I can do the whole run with it. I nickname it Rockefeller, a nod to the oyster dish, Oysters Rockefeller. Cause Shelder is an oyster? I suck at nicknames. In any case, Tim turns around and challenges us to a battle on our way out of the lab. And at this point, since neither of us has grown into our types, we just have to resort to schoolyard tactics and tackle each other until one of us gives. Fortunately, he wastes a few turns growling at us, and eventually we take him down. Afterwards, we have to complete our obligatory fetch quest, and once Package Delivery Simulator is out of the way, we can finally begin our adventure. Our first step is to stop and catch a Pidgey for Flylater, nicknaming it Flapsity the 35th, long may they fly, and proceed on with our usual pre-Brock grinding. While grinding through Viridian Forest, I pick up a Pikachu for Flashlater, nicknaming it Flashelius the 35th, long may they shine. Once we get to level 14, I decide to try my hand at Brock just to see where we stand. We throw in a couple of withdraws and then set about tackling down the Geodude. We're actually able to get past him, but this Onix is faster than us and we just don't have anything to deal with it. Our defense is great, but our low HP is not doing us any favors. We're gonna need to level up a bit and try again. I try again 3 levels higher at level 17, and once again, even though we can get past the Geodude, we run into trouble with the Onix again. We're gonna just have to level more. Not long later though, I get to level 18 and learn Supersonic, and I decide to roll the dice and see if I can get lucky. Geodude is a bit of a pickle, mostly because our confusion keeps wearing off much quicker than I would like most of the time, but we do manage to get extremely lucky with our Supersonic's landing. It's only 55% accurate, mind you, and we just keep re-upping the confusion every time it wears off. I think I only missed once, maybe twice, but eventually after a bit of stalling, we managed to bring down the Geodude with plenty of health left for the Onix. For Onix, I use the same strategy. I keep it confused as much as possible while hitting it with Tackle. When it does go for Bite, I swap to Withdraw to avoid damaging it if I can, and eventually, as opposed to Geodude, which kept having to re-up the confusion, Onix stayed confused much longer each time and hit itself quite a bit. And thus, we're able to bring it down with health to spare and get our first badge. That was our first attempt using Supersonic too. From there, the route forward isn't all that difficult given the over-leveling we had to do for Brock, and we make our way through Mount Moon without any issue. But along the way, I took the Dome Fossil. Or maybe I didn't. Something, comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. Once we get into Cerulean City, I decide to head straight for Misty at the Water Gym. Staryu's out first, and we go for Supersonic and get some decent confusion luck as we're able to tackle the Staryu down without much incident despite it using an X-Defend. After that, we've got ourselves a match against the Starmie, who outspeeds us and leads with an X-Defend, but our strategy isn't any different this time. We keep our Supersonics applied and we tackle down this star like we did the last one and get some decent luck with it hitting itself, and just like that, on our first attempt, we've secured our second badge. Our next step on the adventure is our rival fight at the foot of Nugget Bridge. Pidgeotto goes down to a couple of Bubble Beams, Abra's next and goes down to a Tackle, Rattata goes down to Bubble Beam, and last out is Bulbasaur, who Leech Seeds us but goes down to a couple of Tackles, and there we go. On just our second attempt at Tim, we've made it past the rival. After brawling our way past everyone standing in our way, we make our way to Bill, local computer expert and failed use of the polymerization magic card. We work some defusion magic and get the SS ticket for our trouble. On our way out of town, we stop and pick up a Bellsprout for Cut later, nicknaming it Snipticus the 35th, Long may they cut, and proceed into Vermilion City. Once I get to the SSN, I make a beeline for the next rival fight. Pidgeotto is still a 2-shot with Bubble Beam, Kadabra goes down to a crit tackle 1-shot, Raticate goes down to a critical hit 1-shot Bubble Beam, and Outlast is the Ivysaur who we just tackle down until we win. We would have absolutely lost had it used a third Vine Whip, but for whatever reason it chose to go down Leech Seeding rather than using Vine Whip. Well, that costed the match. I'll take it, a win's a win. After some quid pro quo to get the HM for cut and clearing out the remaining trainers on board, we make our way back into town and make our way to Surge's gym. After taking 3 attempts to get past his stupid trash can jamboree, we press on to the real fight. Voltorb is out first and takes big damage from Bubble Beam and just responds with an X speed, which allows us a second Bubble Beam to bring him down. Pikachu is out next, but being made of tissue paper, it goes down to 1 Bubble Beam as well. Lastly, we have to stare down a Raichu, which takes decent damage from a Bubble Beam and sets up an X speed. We then barely survive 2 Thunder Shocks before we're able to bring it down with a couple more Bubble Beams. We got a crit there, and it was lucky and necessary. We would have lost without it. Now that we have our 3rd badge, we're free to move forward through Rock Tunnel, but before we do, I go catch 10 Pokemon to use Flash. I don't really need it, but Rock Tunnel is already annoying enough without it, so I might as well get it. Once I've cleared through Rock Tunnel, I make a beeline for Celadon City for a few things of need. Our first task is to visit the Pokemart so that we can get some discount healing beverages, which will be more efficient at heals. It'll also let us through the Kanto Highway Patrol who stop us at the gates, and it'll get us the TM for Tri-Attack from this girl on the roof. Now in Gen 1, Tri-Attack lacks these secondary status effects it gets in later gens, but it's still an 80 base power physical attack that will be a major improvement over Tackle. While we're in town, we also try our hand at the Grass Gym, but unfortunately are totally boned here. Unlike in our fight against Surge, this one's not going our way at all. Victory Bell puts us to sleep, and in Generation 1, due to its high base speed, it is mathematically guaranteed to get a critical hit every time as long as it uses Razor Leaf. We're just gonna have to come back. Fortunately, this isn't the only party in town though. We can go clear Team Rocket out of the local casino, which is exactly what we do. Giovanni is a major pushover here as Onix and Rhyhorn both go down to Bubble Beam, and though Kangaskhan is a bit more of a pickle, it too doesn't stand in our way very long. After running Giovanni out of town, we find the Silphscope is in our pants the entire time, and from there we can go rescue some old man from Sprout Tower. But once we're in the tower, we're accosted by Tower Tim. Out first is Pidgeotto, who goes down to Aurora Beam. Gyarados is next and hits a Dragon Rage, but goes down to 2 Tri-Attacks. Kadabra's next and goes down to 1 Tri-Attack, and last out is Ivysaur, which takes 2, but finally ends the fight nearly as quickly as it began. From there, we easily climb the tower to save Mr. Fuji, who gives us the Pokeflute for our trouble, which we then promptly use to wake up and catch the Snorlax for strength later, nickname it Bisepticus 35th, long may they live, and now we have a couple of options, Silphco or Fuchsia City. Once down in Fuchsia City, we take a crack at the Poison Gym, and fortunately for us, we have some decent luck with him not chunking our evasion or accuracy, and after whittling down his team with Tri-Attacks and Bubble Beams, we get some fortuitous luck. As at the end, with Wheezing, Koga decides the best way to win the fight is to end it with a self-destruct. We survive and win the fight. What a grave miscalculation from Koga. Who promotes him to Elite Four between this game and Gold and Silver again? In any case, we go take care of some Easter egg hunting in the Safari Zone to get our HMs for Surf and Strength. Afterwards, we make our way back to Celadon City where we make another crack at Erica. Victory Bell is out first and goes down very quickly thanks to a lucky critical hit on Aurora Beam. Tangela is out next and survives an Aurora Beam on a sliver just to heal and go down to another. Vileplume takes a couple Aurora Beams but finally goes down to secure another badge for us. Afterwards, it's a quick jaunt to the Silphco building at Saffron City where once we work our way up the tower to the rival fight, we have some really good luck once we get there. Pidgeot's out first and gets frozen from an Ice Beam. Gyarados is next and takes 3 Tri-Attacks to go down. Growlithe is next, but a single Surf brings it down. Alakazam goes down to another Tri-Attack and outlasts his Venusaur, who tanks an Ice Beam, wastes his turn using Leech Seed, and goes down to another Ice Beam. Giovanni's holding the Silphco president hostage, but he's a pushover just like before, so we quickly surf across his entire team without incident. We collect the Master Ball for our trouble, not that we're really going to need it because there are no shinies in this gen, but we'll take it nonetheless. What we will use though is this free Lapras on the way out of the building though, which we take graciously to continue our lineage, nicknaming it Aquades the 35th, long may they swim, and head down to Cinnabar Island. We make our way through the local mansion where Blaine has conveniently left his house key, and once we secure it, we make our way to the gym, and to no one's great surprise, we nearly one-shot sweep his entire fire team with Surf. Though his Arcanine does take 2, it only manages a marginally damaging takedown. Once we make our way back to Viridian City, I once again remember that I forgot to visit Sabrina in the Psychic Gym. I always forget when I do Gen 1 runs. Once we navigate our way through the gym's teleporting pads, we quickly dispatch her team with a series of Tri-Attacks. Now that we've caught up with Sabrina and beaten her for another badge, we can make our way back to Viridian City, and now we're able to defeat Giovanni once and for all, and just as predicted, he goes down to a one-shot sweep with Surf. Next on our way out of town, we run into another rival fight against our rival Tim. Pidgeot is up first and goes down to Blizzard and Tri-Attack. Gyarados is next and goes down to a few tri-attacks, but we end up winning it. From there, it's a pretty quick jaunt with Surf and Blizzard to the finish line against him, where we seize the day thanks largely due to a missed Razor Leaf from Venusaur, which would have been certainly a crit. Along our way through Victory Road, I stop and knock out Moltres. No real reason to, but I guess I wanted the experience before we make our way into the Indigo Plateau and get ready for the Elite Four. Here's our stats. Let's do it. Or not. Yeah, Lorelei's not gonna work. Even with our rare candies being used, we're still not quite making the cut here. So I go pick up the TM for Mimic and try the fight again. We Mimic on the Dugong to copy its rest. From there, we set about try-attacking it down. Next out is our Evolved Form Cloyster, and it's an even more defensive tank than I am. In fact, in the current generations of games, out of the 900 or so Pokemon, Cloyster is tied for 9th in physical defense. So we have to resort to Surf to bring it down, even though it's not very effective. Slowbro's out next, and again we have to contend with a pretty high defensive wall with its Withdrawal, and also a special defensive wall with its Amnesia. We're eventually able to just bully our way through it. Jinx is next and goes quietly into the night, though we did have to use Rest to heal. Last out is Lapras, and I throw the last of my Blizzards at it hoping for a freeze, forgetting that even in Gen 1 you couldn't freeze an Ice-type Pokemon. So we don't get it, and it keeps body slamming us. Eventually I have to swap some tri-attacks, but thanks to the Rest that we mimicked, we were able to stay in the fight long enough to just brute force our way past the Lapras, for a rather difficult member of the Elite Four. That took a lot of our power points. Bruno, on the other hand, is a much easier run. As a combination of both Surf and Tri-Attack, we're able to fight past the Fighting Master Bruno on our very first attempt without any resistance from him at all. Up next is the old ghost biddy Agatha, whose AI loves to make things random. The Agatha Lottery, as some can call it, and it gives us great results like Dream Eater while not being asleep, or Confuse Ray while already confused, and other things like that. I use Mimic to bring Nightshade into the fold, a move that will inflict damage equal to our level, so in this case, 67 points every time I use it. This will help us get us past most of her team without too much trouble, and we do swap to Blizzard for the Golbat. Finally, her last Gengar eventually comes out, and we wind up hitting ourselves a couple of times in confusions, and it lands a Toxic just to make me a bit worried, but fortunately we're able to land our last Nightshade, and in Gen 1, you don't take poison damage when you knock out a Pokemon, so we managed to survive and win the fight, but just barely by the skin of our teeth. Up next is the fourth member of the Elite Four, Dragon Master Lance. Up first is Gyarados, who we mimic Hydro Pump off of, but we do take a couple of Hyper Beams in the process for some big damage before we can finally bring it down with Tri-Attack. Dragonair is out next and goes down to Blizzard, as does the second. Aerodactyl is next and we land a major same type attack bonus Hydro Pump for a super effective one-shot, and last out is the pseudo-legendary Dragonite. But given that it's quad weak to cold weather, it goes down to a single Blizzard for the win. Now we heal up once again and move on to the champion Tim. Pidgeot's out first and tries for Mirror Move when we haven't done anything yet, and we hit hard with Blizzard. It then goes for Wing Attack for a bit of damage and we finish it with Tri-Attack. Alakazam is out next and it annoyingly sets up a barrier which reduces our Tri-Attack's effectiveness, but at this point it just seems like it wants to recover over and over again, so we finally end up getting a critical hit which bypasses the barrier to bring it down in a one-shot. Out next is Rhydon, which goes down to a single Surf. Following that, Gyarados is out next, and we hit for about a third of the Tri-Attack and hits hard with Hyper Beam. That gives us an opening though during its recharge turn, and we're able to bring it down before it can finish the job, since it just wastes its final turn with a Leer. Out next is an Arcanine who, despite the buff, survives a Surf, somehow, but it just misses a Leer and goes down to another. Last out is Venusaur, who we hit really hard with Blizzard as it charges Solar Beam, but fortunately in Generation 1, Blizzard is 90% accurate, so we land a second one to finish it before what would have absolutely cooked our oyster, and we win the run. There we go, the credits roll and we get our Shelder into the Hall of Fame. We've just beaten Pokemon Blue with only Shelder. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to give the video a like and let me know down in the comments. Also feel free to join the Bardbreaker Discord server at the link in the description if you want to hang out with me and your fellow Pokemon fans in the audience. I'm not sure what next week's run is going to be, but feel free to leave suggestions down below or in my run suggestions area of the Discord server. Until next week guys, thanks for watching, like, comment, and subscribe, and go catch 'em all.